Welcome to Lesson 5, Wildfire Risk Assessment. You now have the information needed to run and analyze several different treatment scenarios on the north rim of the Grand Canyon. Let's take a step back and think about what we're doing and where we'd like to go with this information. Wildland fire risk assessment is a very big deal. It's a huge part of the National Park Service Wildland Fire Strategic Plan. A similar plan exists for the Forest Service. The purpose of the NPS Wildland Fire Strategic Plan is to position the Wildland Fire Management Program, fire management staff at all levels of the organization, for the future by identifying trends, reaffirming our values, and establishing our priorities for the next 5 years. The strategic goals and objectives contained in the plan articulate their best judgment of where to spend time and attention to assure success. So you've now learned about the slopes project in detail. You've adjusted the fuel models on your site for various scenarios, and you're about to complete a series of fire behavior calculations, followed by a detailed comparison of the outputs. In the end, you'll be able to see what difference, if any, the fuel treatment had on the area. If you're unclear on the big picture goals of the project, it'd be a good idea to go back and review the burn plan from Lesson 3. In general, by completing this project, the Park Service is hoping to reduce the chances for negative impacts when fire does occur in the area. They know that it will occur eventually, and they know that there are some risks associated with potential future fires to either road access, Forest Service property, or natural resource loss from fire or damage from fire suppression. So, back to the strategic plan. How could the analysis you are doing help determine where and when to spend time and attention to ensure the success of the goals and objectives? Let's think about possible outcomes for the analysis you're about to do. Either 1, the treatment makes the potential fire behavior worse, 2, it does not change anything, or 3, it successfully reduces the predicted fire behavior. In the event of 1, we will know that no more work should be done on this project unless significant changes to the plan are made. In the event of 2, the project could either be totally changed or just increased in intensity. For example, perhaps they would need to treat the north slopes as well and allow for more potentially high fire effects in the treatment. In the event of 3, the treatment would be justified and additional entries would continue to be made with confidence. With this analysis, you now have a much better picture of where and how to commit your resources. At this time, go to the NPS Wildland Fire Strategic Plan. You'll be focusing on the introduction and especially the objectives and goals. Which of the objectives do you think is being worked on by the Slopes Project? Briefly describe how you think the Slopes Project is meeting these objectives. The work that you're doing is a small drop in the bucket in managing landscapes. How can landscape scale fire planning be accomplished? Landscape being as large as our country, region, or state, and also smaller scale such as the Slopes Project. As complexity increases in wildland fire management, so does the need to manage that complexity with better technology. To start finding a solution, a problem needed to be defined. In 2011, Thompson et al. Published a paper entitled Advancing Effects Analysis for Integrated Large-Scale Wildfire Risk Assessment. In response to information gathered about the soaring costs of wildfire, a common thread emerged. They found that there was a perceived inability of federal agencies with wildland fire responsibilities to quantify the value of fire management activities in terms of reducing wildfire risk to social, economic, and ecological values. Alright, so we have somewhat of a definition of the problem. Now, what is the solution? They go on to say that several research groups came together to design and develop quantitative, meaning with numbers, geospatial risk assessment tool to facilitate monitoring trends in wildfire risk over time and to develop information useful in prioritizing fuel treatments and mitigation measures. The 2 key steps in risk assessment and potential sources for uncertainty are 1. Getting potential fire occurrence, behavior, and effects, and 2. Understanding the potential responses of various human and ecological resources. It's important to remember in the second step of the assessment that the effects of fire are not all bad, as we are often led to believe by the media. For example, perhaps allowing fire to burn in an area during mild weather conditions might cause some tree mortality and could impact local communities with smoke. However, by allowing that fire to burn, it is removing fuel that under more extreme conditions would be the cause of much higher negative impacts. So herein lies the challenge with risk assessment. We do not know if, when, where, or how a fire is going to occur. History tells us that it's unavoidable, but the timeline's unknown. Therefore, is it worth it to take the time and money to maybe have an impact on that for a short time? Or is it best to take our chances and hope that nothing bad happens? Through this lab, you will see how we can map the potential fire occurrence and behavior. But how do we spatially account for highly valued resources, or HVR? By combining what we can model about fire and the level of value that we place on resources, we are able to start to develop a much clearer image of where our protection attention should lie. Now, please read Advancing Effects Analysis for Integrated Large-Scale Wildfire Risk Assessment by Thompson et al., and answer the following reflection question. Discuss what you found interesting in the article and how uncertainty and variability plays into the challenge of really understanding the risk of wildfire. This is somewhat of a complicated article. I recommend that you start with understanding the abstract and then go through and look at the figures. I then might suggest going to the conclusions and discussions and finding out what the overall points were that they made. Take your time and read it slowly so that you can fully absorb the information that's being presented.